This is the 14th and final video in our decision tree series. In this video, we'll implement a cart regression tree completely from scratch. In the previous video, we learned how to find the optimal split point in a cart regression tree using mean squared error, or MSE. Building on that idea, we'll now write the Python code for the cart regression algorithm step by step. We'll also compare our implementation with scikit-learn's DecisionTreeRegressor to see how closely the two results match. In this implementation, we will not apply cost complexity pruning. This implementation is based on the cart classification model we introduced earlier, with a few modifications for regression. So if you haven't watched the 7th video in this series yet, watching that first may help you understand this implementation more easily. Before we begin, there's one thing I'd like to mention. Since we're building the regression tree from scratch using recursion, some parts may feel a little challenging if you're new to machine learning. If you're a beginner, I recommend using scikit-learn's DecisionTreeRegressor rather than implementing it from scratch. However, if you want a deeper understanding of how the cart regression algorithm actually works internally, this implementation will be very helpful. This class constructs a binary tree using recursive function calls. The overall structure of this class is very similar to the myDtree classifier from the 7th video. So here, we'll mainly focus on the parts that are different. First, we define the node class just as we did for classification. In classification, the value variable in the node class stores the majority class label, whereas in regression, it stores the average target value. Next, we define the myDtree class. Let's look at the node split function. This function splits a single parent node into left and right child nodes. Just like in classification, the key task here is finding the optimal feature and the optimal split point. The main difference is the splitting criterion. In classification, we use the Gini index to measure impurity. In regression, we use mean squared error, or MSE. First, we generate all possible split points between adjacent data values. Then, for each candidate split point, we divide the parent node into left and right child nodes. Next, we calculate the MSE of each child node and compute the weighted MSE for that split. As we discussed in the previous video, in regression trees, MSE is the same as variance. Among all candidate split points, we select the one with the smallest weighted MSE. Once the optimal split point is found, the parent node is split at that location. That is the role of the node split function. Next, let's look at the recursive split function. While node split function performs a single split, recursive split function repeatedly splits child nodes by recursively calling node split. The logic here is essentially the same as in the myDtree classifier implementation. Next is the assign leaf values function. This function assigns the average target value to each leaf node. In classification problems, majority class labels are assigned, whereas in regression problems, average target values are assigned. Next, we implement the fit function to train the model using the training data. This function is exactly the same as the one used in MyDtree classifier. Finally, we implement the predict1 and predict functions to estimate target values for given samples. These functions are also identical to those used in MyDtree classifier. And with that, the MyDtree-Regressor class is complete. Next, we'll use this class to build an actual regression model. We'll also create another model using scikit-learn's DecisionTreeRegressor and compare the results. The dataset we'll use is a noisy sine curve. This is synthetic data generated for a nonlinear regression problem. The generated data looks like this. Here x is the input feature, and y is the target value. The blue dots represent the training data. If a test sample has an x value around here, the predicted y value would be at this level. If another test sample has an x value around here, the predicted y value would be at this level. In this way, when we predict y values for many test samples, the predictions will form a curve that roughly follows the shape of a sine wave. In this example, the result looks simple because we used only one feature. With multiple features, the prediction surface becomes much more complex in higher dimensional space. We generate 500 training samples using the noisy sine data function. Then, we generate 50 test samples with evenly spaced x values between 0 and 1. The maximum tree depth is set to 3. Next, we create an instance of MyDtree-Regressor. We fit the model to the training data, and then use the predict function to estimate target values for the test data. Finally, we visualize the results. The training data will appear as blue dots, and the predicted values for the test data will appear as a red curve. The visualization function has already been written on the left side. Next, we create another regression tree using scikit-learn's DecisionTreeRegressor. Again, we train the model using the training data and predict the target values for the test data. We also visualize those results for comparison. Visualize the tree structures generated by each model. Next, let's visually compare the trees generated by the two models. On the left is the tree generated by our MyDtree-Regressor, and on the right is the tree generated by scikit-learn's DecisionTreeRegressor. Now let's compare them. In the left tree, the root node splits on feature 0 at 0.486. In the right tree, the root node splits at exactly the same point. Since this dataset contains only one feature, the feature ID used for every split is 0. The left child node splits at 0.071, and the right child node splits at 0.568. The average value in the first leaf node is 3.063, and the average value in the second leaf node is 3.486. As you can see, the two trees match perfectly. Now, let's look at the prediction results for the test data. The three figures in the top row show the predictions from our custom MyDTreeRegressor. The three figures in the bottom row show the predictions from scikit-learn's DecisionTreeRegressor. The blue dots represent the training data, and the red curve represents the predicted target values for the test data. You can see that the two results match exactly. Now let's see how the predictions change as we vary the tree depth. If the tree is too shallow, the model may underfit the data. On the other hand, if the tree is too deep, overfitting may occur. In this example, we used a dataset with a single feature, but the same code also works well with multiple features. Also, although we did not apply cost complexity pruning in this implementation, it can also be used for regression trees. We covered how to apply cost complexity pruning to regression trees in the previous video. Now let's run this code. The results are very similar to what we saw in the previous slide. With this video, we've now covered all the major decision tree algorithms across a total of 14 videos. We explored both the ID3 and CART algorithms, along with both classification and regression trees for each approach.